Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the 2 Hours of Pittsburgh podcast. We have Rich Smotzer and Michael Freeze. Yes, Pittsburgh expats. Yeah, black and gold all the way, even though we don't live in Pittsburgh, but we do talk Pittsburgh football. So let's get right into it. Yeah, we did lie. We said that we were going to have the origin story, but all right, we're going to get into some free
A
agency. So
notable,
we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about some other things as well, but the main crux of this episode is going to be our thoughts on the
notable
what was that? Yeah,
2026 free agents.
the pick, not so much draft picks, but the offseason and where that goes and everything. So, hey, man, let's get right into it, bro.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, man, let's get into the offense first.
Well,
the
The key one, we talked about him last week, wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. Trade plus an extension. Excellent move.
yes, most definitely. Yeah, number 2 to DK.
Yes, excellent. And then we got
That's going.
running back Rico Dowdle, who played under
Yes.
McCarthy in Dallas. Back Travis Homer brought in for special teams, kickoff returns. But we have the draft pick Eli. He's looking good in camp. I don't know. Homer might be packing his bags either on go to the FedEx, another team, because the Navy kid is tearing it up in camp. And then
Yes,
we got. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, man, like Eli, man, I'm like pulling for him, man. Well, it's definitely being a Navy guy myself, so
Yeah,
I'm definitely pulling for him, you know. But we all want every Steeler that's on the team to stay on the team. But
right.
the other
There's
day,
only 53 positions. You can't keep them all, but we're stacked for sure.
Yeah, I know. But Eli, man, he's going to be one of those players that he's not going to shy away from playing special teams. Like that, he'll get in where he fits in. So
and that's where he's going to thrive. It's special teams for sure. But
yeah, definitely.
He's looking good out of the backfield. Like they have Rodgers tossing to him down the sideline, just clean as butter.
Yeah, speaking of just reserves and the future, A.T. Perry, that's another addition that we got. These guys, maybe he may be a practice player. I mean, yeah, a practice squad player. Get into that. You can kind of throw Brandon Johnson in that mix as well. I mean, yeah, so that's going to be some good stuff, for training camp for sure. But hey, I want to ask you a question, Rich.
One more, and then Steelers just signed wide receiver Levi Wentz. He's an addition. He's out of Kansas. He's bounced around. I forgot whose practice squad he's on, but he's got the height. He's got the prototype speed. He's not shy over the middle from the highlights I watched.
So what do you think with with him you just mentioned and the other three, Homer, Perry, and Johnson? That Rico and Pittman, definitely going to make the squad, make an impact. Who you think out of that four, Homer, Perry, and Johnson are going to be, impactful at least, as maybe, if they get beyond the practice squad?
The only one on that list I see who's going to make an impact and will most likely be like a fourth running back, or Eli will be the fourth running back, is we're going to have running back Travis Homer.
Okay.
Special teams. We need kickoff returners, and he's proven, over the years to be a solid kickoff return, punt return.
Yeah, Homer, I agree with you, man. I think Homer's going to be that one that's going to surprise everyone. Like he's going to be that, just that case, when you during that middle of the season, that he's going to be that dude that we might be talking about, just sort of just coming up from the mud, for the black and gold. So I'm hoping that's the case because, punt return wise, man, we haven't really had any juice since AB.
Exactly.
I mean, you kind of had Austin in there, everything,
right.
But
AB
we need somebody.
Was the dude. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Put this against the Browns. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. But we ain't gonna get that fire. I mean, like if Homer's gonna be that dude, but like that's gonna be a lot of psychosis involved in that.
Exactly. Well, we got quarterback. My dude won me three fantasy football championships. Aaron Rodgers, my brother, my other brother besides Mike Freeze.
Oh yeah, your Cali brother, man. That's cool, man. That's cool. No, but the thing with Rodgers, man, I think I want to think that he's going to ball out. This being his last year, but.
And his mind is like a computer. He like zeroes in on every corner of that field.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm hoping that at least in the quarterback room. Yeah. So who you think in that quarterback room? You know, you got Rodgers QB1, of course, and then you got you know,
Drew Aller,
Rudolph.
Rudolph.
You got you know, Allar, and then you'll have yeah, Howard. So I mean, who's going to? I mean, I don't think there's going to be 4 QBs in that room.
Aller would
But
probably be or make it to practice squad. But another
hmm
name's popped up is Sorsby, the gambler, the cat from Cincy. What do you think about
right
him?
on.
Would you gamble on a gambler?
I don't know, man. I think you know, bringing even more QBs in the mix, man. That's going to be a muddled mess and everything. But I'm going to say, man, that with Rudolph and everything, I'm not going to be surprised if it's going to be, you know, Rodgers, Rudolph, and Howard. Like, I don't think that. I think the other kid's probably going to be on the practice squad. But
The depth chart, I believe it'll be Howard #2 because they already gave Rudolph the
mhm,
reins, but they want to develop Howard definitely. And
mhm,
in case, Rodgers does go down, he does have, injuries. But, as long as that offensive line protects him. So number one,
mhm.
definitely Rodgers. Number two, Will Howard. And number three, Rudolph. But I don't know. My crystal ball says he's gonna not make it.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm hoping that he does, but you know, that was Coward's due. You know, I mean, not Coward, but that was Tomlin's due, Rudolph. You
Yeah, it
know,
was.
so
But I
there's a
do
little bit.
think Tomlin's guys, they have to step it up or, they're either going to be on another team or FedEx.
Yeah, they're gonna be left. They're gonna be left out for sure. You know, so yeah, man, we'll see. We'll see about that. That's what I'm most interested in because, like, it could go probably the other way too because Rudolph may have a chip on his shoulder, saying, you know, just kind of, you know, like you guys, you know, I'm the backup. You know, I'm the perennial backup, and then you know, I mean, heaven forbid Rodgers gets hurt. You know, but you know, Rudolph comes in, he balls out. You know, it could be like the perfect redemption story. You know,
Again,
like
it's the offensive line he was dealt to him over the years. I mean, come on, he got knocked out in the one game where he was like out, and Juju Smith is there like freaking out, losing his shit, crying on the field because he wasn't moving at all. They thought he was like dead. But yeah, he's got wrecked over the years. I mean, the notable Miles Garrett clocking him on the head with the helmet. I think he's got a little bit of maybe AB disease in the brain. A little bit. Nah, he, he's
hey,
still he's still got his brain.
yeah, let's talk about the offensive line, man. Those are the guys who are going to protect them. You know, so you got Driscoll. You know, he got signed up for 1 year.
Tackle.
You know, another other. Yeah, yeah, yes.
He
And then
was
you got
he was
go
brought in
ahead.
brought in for insurance because of Broderick Jones's injury. And speaking of
Okay.
Jones, he's not going to be able to play this year with his neck injury. He hasn't been able to hit the weights, so he's dropped a lot of pounds on him. So he's
Mm-hmm.
not football ready, and he's on his last year of the contract, as well. But
Yeah, they
Driscoll,
got the.
go ahead,
No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, Driscoll, and then you have the 2 centers as well. You know,
both
you
can play
definitely.
guard, versatile.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, yeah, you got guys that fill that void, and that's what you need. You know, Ryan and Brock are probably going to, you know, to fill in that, you know, that hole. I mean, because the Steelers, they've always, you know, that's one thing with the organization. At least, you know, you can talk about the skill players, but when it comes to offensive linemen, they always seem to have somebody that's ready to step up. They always have somebody waiting in the wings. You know, that depth is something that's been a part of the organization throughout all the coaches. So that's one thing that's, you know,
Next
I'm
man up.
glad that, yeah, next man up, the organization has really, you know, gotten a hold of that, you know, despite I mean, you can't say, you know, too much coaching changes since, you know, we pretty much have a coach like every 20 years. It's,
Yeah, exactly.
it's gone. But hey, man, let's talk about those tight ends too, man. We kind of skipped on that, man.
Yeah,
Darnell Washington.
recent addition to fill in the fourth tight end spot is Robert Tonyan. He
Mm-hmm.
previously played with both Rodgers and McCarthy in Green Bay, and Rodgers wanted him, tapped him, asked him to come sign and be on the Steelers with them because it's a
Mm-hmm.
get everybody versatile, going with the McCarthy era.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Darnell Washington. That extension is so solid. He's slimmed down too. Another another key factor. He's beasting out. And then Jaheim Bell. What do you know about him?
Well, the thing about, with Bell, I mean, that guy, he's a producer, so I mean, and also, he has, the blocking as well, when it comes to, just blocking tight ends, because especially with the run game, you're going to need that, especially in
Yeah,
today's run game, because
exactly.
it's I mean, you're going to need that. You're going to need threat, and we got plenty of threats when it comes to route runners. Frymuth, and DK, you can have those two guys out, on each end, plus with your, with DK and Pittman, and just sort of, that another third option. So Rodgers will be happy in that regard, but like you definitely have that depth when we need it in the running game. And I think, it'd be guys like Bell, even Washington, I mean, he's an underrated blocker as well. I mean, he's a great route runner. And, when you put him out in the flat against the 5'8" DB, it's game over. So I think like with the offensive line, I think, we get a good, dependable like backup, because like the Connor Hayward type, you know what I'm saying? Even though he's gone, but like you want a dude, but even too, man, with Eli, so like that could be, like that dude can play anything. So, we can I think the tight end situation is going to be pretty solid this year. So
Right. I also want to, a key takeaway is the Tomlin era. Like
hmm
what they tried to do with all their draft picks is like switch them around, take them from their natural position to,
hmm
put them in, for the next man up. But I think what that did is underdeveloped the players, or, stalled their development, because yeah, you could give them snaps here and there, but keep them at their key roles. And what McCarthy's doing is bringing in these guys to play their natural positions. Yeah, they're mixing it up for them, but the key takeaway is they're doing it the smart way, and
hmm
not wasting years on it, and it just underdeveloping. I mean, they do turn out good, but again, it hurts them and
Well,
us. And
I think to your point, Rich, is that McCarthy's bringing in dudes like he's got Rico, like in that in the offensive backfield, just sort of. I mean, I wouldn't say like, well, I guess I would, to a certain part, you kind of have a leader on the field, so you have McCarthy's scheme,
that knows
and
the
he
system. Yeah,
yeah, and he has players on offense and defense to show the other players, how it's going. That's going to be I mean, that's going to be apparent in the QB room with Rodgers. So I mean, it's going to be familiar faces. So you kind of have that dynamic, and like we're still hung over Tomlin and all the Tomlinsms,
yeah, but
and
yeah, all the bad stuff is coming out though.
yeah, so we get the. We're going to at least in the locker room have some familiarity when it comes to like McCarthy and all the all the players who've been around him as a coach, as an assistant coach, so they can kind of see that culture and just kind of mold that into a new version of the Steeler era, wherever that's going to be, because like McCarthy's an offensive guy, so you got that, and then you got the defense too. I mean, but you got Patrick Graham and his connections as well. So like let's talk a little bit about that. Let's go to the other side of the ball with the defense. The biggest focus of the free agency for the Steelers, seems to be in the defensive backfield. So once you run down some names.
Jamel Dean brought in for 3 years, a major
Mm,
signing for sure. And
mm-hmm.
then Asante Samuel Jr., 1 year re-sign. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're bringing in Brisker, safety. And then Darnell Savage, he hasn't been in the building yet. There's been like first reported months ago that he signed the contract, and then they started reporting he didn't sign the contract. I guess he has some injury issue that he's trying to tie up. So, but I think for him, he might be an odd man out, because I think Brisker ball out over him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think
mean we
that.
have
Yeah, I think. I
Elliott.
mean, he's been hurt. He's prone to injury. So I mean, Savage is. So I mean, because I mean that's the thing with the Steelers, man. I mean, you have. I mean, it's one thing with especially when it comes to the front office that you have. The Steelers know when to get rid of somebody. Especially when
Elliott.
it comes to
Yeah.
like wide receivers and everything. But they
Hmm.
also know how to get those those players looking for a redemption arc. You know what I mean? And like
Exactly.
Savage seems to be like that guy. Because like he was a first rounder. When he got drafted to Green Bay. So but like he doesn't get too many picks. You know what I mean? He's not like your coverage safety. So and that's why, they gave him, he got a little over $1 million for, 1 year, so, he could probably be like that backup, so when, so I mean, it can be that case, but like, but if he's in, if he balls out, we got one of those dudes we got for cheap, for a year. If it doesn't work out, or like you said, if he doesn't make it through July, like that was 1.5 mil, that they invested in it. So that's the value. So I think it's a no lose for the Steelers and him, because he has something to prove, and they can get some depth if they need it. So I mean, I'm cool with that, man. That's a good risk to take, at least with Savage,
Yeah. We
but like,
needed to get that D-back room tied up, and we have the Browns. They got Boston and Concepcion. You got to cover them. You have out of Baltimore, who do you have? Flowers?
Yes.
Flowers, and with the threat of what's his name? I can't think of the quarterback. Alien.
Jackson.
Oh,
How you
I'm
forget
focused
that?
on the Steelers.
Yeah.
Screw every other team.
Yeah.
Except for the
Okay,
Browns.
how can you
You got to
forget?
hate on the
Yeah,
Browns.
I'm about to say, yeah, how can you forget New Era?
We got but coming up after the defensive back room, we got the front seven.
Yes.
D-line, linebackers, and edge. We got 6 players. You want to tie that down and start off the list?
Yeah, Holcomb, man, 2 years, $5 million. He's going. Yeah, I'm quite happy about that, man. Like, I mean, I'm always happy when we get, when we shore up players.
Does
So
he
I
still
mean,
have his
that is.
mullet?
I
I wonder
don't
if he
know.
still has his mullet to have the best mullet contest going on between Holcomb and Dunker.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think Holcomb is like that dude. Like, you see him on special teams. Like he's making that play on special teams when it comes to, like, the punt, and then like it's that guy. He's that guy that stops that, that 3rd and 6. He tackles a guy, 5 yards out. So it's one of those things. So I mean, it's kind of like one,
Wrap
a
up.
heart and spirit. Yeah, heart and spirit type of wrap up when it comes to him. But like, they got some depth, man, with with Davis and linebacker, and then of course, man, when it comes to the line, man, you can never have enough linemen.
Oh, no.
I think the real cool one, Lowry, Odomio is going to be. I mean, Odomio is going to be, that's going to be a good one. Joseph Day.
Joseph
Is a,
Day. That was a beast pickup right there. He's a baller.
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
In the
man.
middle.
I think, yeah, he's definitely going to be. I think he's going to be a surprise, man. I think he's definitely going to be a surprise. I think he's going to cause some problems for some folks, man. I think he's going to be. That's my pick. Like, just like as a breakout, at least. And of course, man. Go ahead.
Black, Black. He's put to how I was talking about natural position and how they didn't bring him in McCarthy era. They're putting him at nose tackle. Like, we haven't had a solid nose tackle since Casey Hampton. So they're putting Black in there, and he's starting to get the belly. Well, he's more tone, but he's a beast in the middle too, and he's tearing it up at OTAs at his natural position in college. And
no, I'm just saying, like, you nailed it with with McCarthy's whole philosophy with just bringing in people in the natural position.
Fit the scheme.
That's going to make things go smooth. But hopefully it goes smooth, and with minimal injuries, we get the guys in the right spot, and they don't have to move around a bit and everything. So you got that. So yeah, man. Yeah, Nick Hegberg. It's going to be. Yeah, the defense is going to be nice, man. We'll see what's happening. There's still JPJ. Just kind of questions of his contract. But the way that the Steelers move in the offseason, yeah, I think if there's there might be a move between now and August, but I highly doubt it with the way that the management moves and stuff and everything.
Well, with that,
but we even got go ahead
with the defense. I'm hoping like they'll bring a blitz scheme in like off the edge, Highsmith and Watt, and then you have either Queen in the middle or Smith in the middle, and then bringing Herbig coming in, somewhere through that line because he gets right under those linemen, or offensive
Mm-hmm.
linemen, and wreak havoc on the quarterback. They're going to be on the podium for top defense for sure, and offense, top three. I'm
For
calling
sure,
them.
man. Yeah, man. And of course, man, we got, there's one thing this year and through other years that we've been, I wouldn't say struggling with, but like we kind of have, kind of need to hold on. And that's the punter position, man. And like, Cameron Johnson being signed,
Bringing him back in
big,
after his injury
yeah. Big help, man. I mean, there's, of course you got the Wizard of Boz, he's going to be there.
for sure.
It's just like, but we've been playing some musical chairs with some punters the last 3 years.
Well,
So
right. If he didn't get blasted and got his leg tore up, he would have been our consistent punter then. And then we also had punter sign in free agency, but I think he lasted 2 weeks and he's already in the FedEx line.
yeah, man, yeah, man. The Steelers, man. I mean, they really, taking care of some business when it comes to free agency, but that's normal with the Steelers, man, because
Yeah,
it's all, that's why they're in it. Like people, other fans may make fun of us for, being in the playoffs and leaving, but at least we're in the playoffs.
exactly, exactly.
You know.
But the key takeaways from this,
hmm
if Tomlin was still at the holding the reins, do you think some of these same free agents would have been signed coming in? I think Pittman would have been a definite, but like I don't know, definitely Rico would not have been here. He would have been somewhere else.
I think there would probably been some players who wanted to come here if Tomlin was there. Because you're always every year there's always like even with Decaf when he signed, he was like even Rodgers, it was like Tomlin, I want to play with Tomlin.
He's a
Like those
good
guys.
people person for sure. He has
Mm-hmm.
that aura about him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some of his coaching it could have been a little.
Yeah, I think maybe some of these guys might not have showed up. I mean, like but the guys who have ties to McCarthy and Graham, that makes sense. You have that, and McCarthy has he has the coaching tree. He has the players that were under him when he was an assistant. So you have that, and then there are guys that aren't old, so you got guys that can still produce and have been in the league for a while, so you kind of have that connection. I mean, you had the same with Tomlin, but like he had different guys, guys that this same. It's the same overlay with McCarthy. You had guys that who wanted to be a part of that Steeler mystique, and I think some of those guys, if Tomlin would have been there, there still would have been there. Being a part of the Steelers still means something to most NFL players, because there's still that culture of competitiveness. I mean, and it's still winning. The Steelers are the defending AFC North champions. They're always going to be in discussions when it comes to the playoffs, in the season, who's going to be the best team. The Steelers are there. That's the cool thing about, just being a Steeler fan, because it's not, you're not talking about the draft like you're doing like with Browns, with the Browns.
Who's my quarterback going to be this year?
Yeah, who's my quarterback? Yeah, like what are we going to get the first pick, the third pick? You
Deshaun's on
don't have
his
those.
last year of his contract finally.
Mm-hmm.
I bet
Yeah,
they'll be happy to get rid of him for sure. But yeah, he's not tearing it up. I guess he's like a dumpster fire in OTAs, not
yeah,
consistent. That was the biggest hosing of Cleveland ever signing that dude. And how many draft picks did they give up for him too? Like 6, like a
6.
lot of
Yeah,
draft capital. And with that,
goofy.
they could have had a Super Bowl championship by now. If they wouldn't have put all the chips in on Watson, they could have all that draft capital and that money they could have had free agents brought in and then, had their franchise quarterback by now. But
Mm-hmm.
Browns are the Browns. Front office always junking it up, dumpster fire.
Man, we should have an episode just dumping on the Browns.
Our next team too that we like to hate on is our '70s rival, the Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah. My brother-in-law's a big Raiders fan too, so he's like, yeah, he's almost like borderline Browns fan, because he's just like the Raiders can do no good. But hey, man, we wrapped a good bow on this, man. Do we have an email that our our loyal fan base, all the 10 people who listen to this podcast can email us with any questions.
You put me on the spot.
It's probably a Gmail, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2 hour. It's our podcast name, 2hoursofpittsburgh@gmail.com. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Please subscribe and support us.
We're on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are on YouTube, and we are on Facebook, right?
Yes.
All right.
And then we have a website in process.
Yes, we're going to have a website in process, and we're going to have shirts and hats, so be ready. This is the place to go to listen to some Pittsburgh talk with two regular guys that know a lot about football and the Steelers. So, all right, everybody, that has been the 2 hours to Pittsburgh. That guy is Rich Smotzer.
That guy is Mike Freeze.
Have a good time, and we'll see you on the next episode, and we'll get around to our origin story one day. But hey, we're going to have some fun with this, man. See you on the next episode.